Hi, I'm Ruth Dickey. I'm the Executive Director of the National Book Foundation, and today I'm so excited to be chatting with Lena Khalaf Tuffaha, the author of the beautiful book, Something About Living, winner of the 2024 National Book Award in Poetry. Lena, thank you so much for making time for this.
Hi, Ruth. Thank you. It's good to be with you.
There's so many things that I love about your book, and the title to your book appears in my favorite poem in the book, Letter to June Jordan in September. And I'd love to start with having you talk about why June Jordan is important to this work and to your book.
So when I was an undergraduate student at the University of Washington studying literature, English literature, comparative literature, one of the kind of habits I developed was my bus stop was on University Ave right in front of the bookstore. And sometimes I just sort of wouldn't feel like going home yet. So I'd wander into the bookstore and sit on the floor in front of the poetry bookshelf and pull books off the shelf and just read from writers I, wasn't studying in school and hadn't heard of before. And one of those writers was June Jordan. And she had written a poem that was about the war in Lebanon at the time and the Sabra and Shatila massacre, which is a foundational event in kind of my Palestinian childhood memory. And it rocked my world to hear this magnificent American poet speak from her own experience and from her own consciousness to me and to us in this really incredible way.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It makes me think about one of the things from your book that I loved is how much history is in the book and also how much of your family's history is in the book and around that idea of communities of belonging. And I'd be curious how your family has reacted to the book.
My family's great. They're really supportive. It's been very touching, especially after the book award, to see them react to the recognition, because I come from a family where writing is treated as a very special art and a beloved art. My grandfather was a poet. He was the poet laureate of Jordan. And I grew up spending summers in his home watching him draft essays and poems at the family table with like grandkids literally climbing all over the place.
I love knowing about your father and your grandfather and the poetry in your life. I'd love to hear, how did you find your voice as a poet and as a young person?
I don't think there's a bigger influence on me in poetry than my grandfather, I think. And I should say he's my maternal grandfather. Just growing up in that space in a house that had bookshelves in almost every room and where reading was this like beautiful, the personal act of self-care and joy. I saw people in my family reading all the time, newspapers, books, magazines. Conversations were often about books and stories. So that just being rooted in a family like that, I think primes you for the art. And then just belonging to a culture where there isn't always the permission to narrate your own experience, I think can also be an invitation to writing, because it feels like there's an urgent need.
Your collection wrestles so profoundly and so beautifully with the role of poetry in the face of dehumanizing violence. And I'd love to hear you talk about how you thought about that as you were writing this collection.
Yeah, I think that is the singular kind of thread for me in this collection. Some of the poems are a little bit older, some are more recent, but they all circle that. The words are necessary, and the witness is necessary, and the protest is necessary. All of it is necessary and insufficient. And trying to live with that truth is the work of this book for me, and has been progressively the work of my writing.
That's beautiful. I'm curious, what has surprised you most in the month since having won?
So it's been amazing to see who has reached out and had something to say about what the work has meant to them. That's been really moving, because when you're kind of in the morass of writing, you can forget that what you have to say can impact people. And can feel very personal to them. And so that's been a really moving reminder. I got an email from my childhood pediatrician, which I thought was hilarious. Like, I probably haven't seen this man since I was 11 years old, 12 years old, because again, we moved. And Um, and so the email was like, this is Dr. So and so, and I think this is who you are based on your name. And I just, I remember your family from my practice. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.